first ever YouTube.
Is it? Welcome. So guys, welcome back to my YouTube. I actually planned to do a sit-down video speaking through my own health journey, but I have the pleasure of having one of my wonderful clients and good friends here, Kaylie, who has been working with me for 3 years?
3 years, yeah.
3 years now. And I think it's fair to say it hasn't been a straightforward journey at any point. And this video, we just literally want to talk through it because I'm sure so many women will relate to what Kaylie has been through and what she struggled with and the things we did to help her. So as a little bit of an overview before we kind of go into things, when Kaylie came to me first, she had kind of tried lots of different things, which we'll go into, and we eventually discovered that she actually had PCOS and endometriosis, which was affecting how she was able to show up day to day. It was affecting kind of how your body was responding, and we obviously implemented lots of different things. So that's exactly what we're going to run through. So we're going to interrogate Kaylie today and ask her questions because
Yeah,
again,
I'm ready.
I'm sure so many women will listen to this and kind of relate to it in a way. So let's get into it. Before working together, what was your kind of day-to-day like, and what were you kind of struggling most with?
Oh, my day-to-day, well, varied actually, because I would just do loads of different things. Before you, I'd done Courtney Black, I was doing HIIT workouts, endless amount of cardio.
I remember when you sent me all of that first, and
I was just doing so much and just not really getting much out of it. And I was like, how can I be doing this amount of work and not see any results? And I would just look at my friends who were like, getting into shape, and I just felt like nothing was working and I was broken.
Yeah. And I think all of those like challenge-based things, I think they're a great way for like women to get moving and to like get a little bit of motivation. Did you find
like good for endorphins, like good for a little boost. I'm like, there was a good community, but for me, like knowing what I know now, when I was doing Courtney Black, for example, I was just on 1,500 calories for the best part of 2 years, I'd say.
Yeah.
I didn't have a single break. I didn't know how to do any sort of reverse dieting. I didn't know how to increase any of my foods. I was just
I think
constantly in
for any woman, that's not a place to be. And I think a lot of women jump like challenges or transformation programs and never really make a true change, or never really actually understand their body for them.
The diet culture, especially when I was growing up, was just so intense that I just like, I kept doing as much as I could. I'd just see that like results at some point, like something would
something would stick,
and it'd be like my ideal body goals, and it just didn't happen.
And what would you say like made you believe that maybe there was something wrong and it wasn't just a case that you needed to like try harder with these things or do more? Like what did you see that kind of made you question what was going on with your body?
I mean, social media these days is really good because obviously everyone's kind of having, more open conversations around their own health and different things. And I think for me, there was more conversation around it, and I thought maybe I just hadn't lost hope. I was just like, there's going to be someone. And then I had friends that obviously were coaching through you anyway, and I was seeing their results, and I was just like, there's still hope for me. I didn't write myself off.
And did you believe that it was maybe what you were doing, or that there was a health component, or it was kind of...
I didn't think there was a health component at the time. I just thought... I thought I was being honest with myself, but I was like, am I being honest with myself? You know deep down whether or not you are.
Yeah. And it was actually really funny when Kaylie started with me, I'll never jump to the fact that, okay, there's something wrong with you, that's why your body's not responding. And she was tracking her food, and at some point we kind of questioned, okay, are these things accurate? Is what we're doing actually what we're saying we're doing? And little did I know, and what I've learned now is Kaylie is very...
Too much.
Doesn't miss a beat. And was in fact doing everything she thought she was supposed to be.
Yeah, I like to be a grade A perfect prefect kind of student. And I'm like, I've done everything, I've nailed it, like what more can I do?
Yeah, and it was like the scale weight wasn't moving, she was just not, like nothing was really happening.
No.
It was really, really slow.
Yeah, it was.
So in terms of what we were doing, like where did the moment come that we were kind of like, okay, we need to look into it a little deeper? I think it was when I discovered that I was like, she's doing everything and we're not seeing this response. And
I was tracking everything, I was being meticulous, I was even sending you things, like I was really open and honest in terms of communication with you. And then you were just like, I don't think something is right here. So
that's when we decided to look into a little bit of blood work, and from there we actually referred you and you got a diagnosis.
I went to my GP, got a diagnosis of PCOS first.
And then later down the line, I think it was a year later, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a year into our journey I got diagnosed with PCOS, and then a year after that it was endometriosis on top of that.
Okay, and what was it like for you getting those diagnoses?
I mean, great to have an answer as such. I really did have to push for those from the GP though, like I really did have to push. I kind of felt like, yeah, that's why. So it gave me a bit more of understanding of my body. But I couldn't have done it if I didn't have you guiding me through that. I think if I'd have just got that diagnosis outside of it, I'd just been like, well, that's me. I'm done
not
now.
really. No. And I think so many women fall into that trap that it's like, okay, I have this diagnosis of PCOS, so I can't lose body fat, and it's a lot harder for me. And or when it comes to endometriosis, because it's a massive management side on that. It's quite hard. That it's kind of like that's just you're destined. That's just going to be you now. And really,
I think at the start I was like that. I'm just done now. I'm going to just be bloated all the time. I'm done for. I'm never going to get the dream figure that I want.
And realistically speaking, and something that we saw, which we'll go into, is like there is so much you can do through your lifestyle. There's so much you can do through what you're doing day to day. It's not just about like for you decided not to utilize what was suggested to you in terms of the contraceptive pill, and you decided to take it in your own hands and actually do things that we knew through daily actions that could improve how you're feeling.
But tailored to me though, because I've read so much on it now, and like opening it up, like, you know, I'm like, oh well, I'd do this and that's going to fix that. But you try it with me and it'd be completely different.
And so like, especially when it comes to PCOS, so many women take this broad overview of, okay, I have PCOS, so we'll follow what somebody's saying online, like I'm going to stop doing HIIT training, I'm going to stop eating carbs, I'm going to reduce my stress. And like, while something works for one woman, it doesn't necessarily, because it's understanding where your PCOS, you know, much like IBS, PCOS, if we think about it, polycystic ovarian syndrome, things like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, these are an overview of symptoms that are occurring. They're not a diagnosis as such, and it's understanding like what is driving it for you, and that's how you can best support your body. So it really isn't about taking, and that's what a lot of women will do, that they'll get a diagnosis of PCOS and they'll go online and type in PCOS and see what comes up and see what
I was following tons of PCOS like experts on social media, and I was like, all right, this is what I'll do this and I'd message you and you'd be like, right, let's look at the bigger picture, let's look at the journey so far today. So it's been a journey.
So when we started addressing things, so we won't go into like massive detail, but a lot of it was done through diet, supplementation, lifestyle, training. But when we started addressing that a little bit more, what were the biggest shifts that happened for you?
My mood, I would say,
really?
Like it's a massive thing when you start actually doing things that kind of like fit to you and your situation. Your mood, your mindset completely changes, and you may not get like, you know, quick fixes as such, as we hate to say, but like I felt a lot better. Like it was just an instant kind of.
I suppose, is it the side of like, you know, going from not really seeing any sort of response in your body? Because, you know, when we talk about these kind of things, like, of course, we have that health element of it, that we want to support our body and be healthy, but also, you know, as women, like a lot of women, you know, we want to be in shape, we want to feel good in our body, and when you're not seeing that, it's mentally
it's
challenging.
It's debilitating. Like, I can't, for years, I would get like minimal response. I'd really have to push. Like I said, I was like really overtraining, and like we've stripped things right back. Like, I think when I started, I wanted to train like 7 days a week with you, because I was doing HIIT every day, and now like you know, to 4 training sessions a week, and like sometimes I have to beg you to do extra steps of cardio. So like for me to like really strip it back and tailor it to me, like my mindset's different, my moods are a lot better. Like obviously my physique is in a way better position than it was when we first started. So like it's like a domino effect. Like small little changes really do then to start to add up, and then.
And for you, it really has been like, you know, we've done so much in terms of like, you know, we do consistent blood work every few months. We look at where things are. We understand what's working, what's not working, and it's a consistent process that you've definitely dedicated to. And I think it's important to not override the fact that it's like, okay, we just put these in place. You put everything into like supporting your body and giving it 100%.
I just want to give it the best possible chance. I want to give myself the best possible chance. Like,
So from when obviously that kind of like diagnosis was in place and we decided to make the changes, what was the hardest part of making those changes for you? Because before, obviously, as you're saying, you're doing lots of different things, and changing your mindset in terms of having to take a bit of a different approach, what would you say the hardest part of all of that change was?
Slowing down.
I knew you were going to say that.
Slowing down. It just felt so alien to me. And like I said, growing up, it was drilled into us. Like, do more, do this. Like, you know, I'd run endlessly. I'd do so much cardio. And then when you were just like, just chill, it just wasn't part of my DNA.
Yeah. Sometimes it still slips in a little bit. You're like, can I?
Yeah, I really do struggle with it. Like,
Yeah.
I just think even if you take outside of fitness, I just think it's been so drilled into us that we have to like always do more, or like fill your time and make the most of everything.
Yeah.
And actually, if you just take a step back and, you know, chill out for a moment, you're going to be a better version of yourself eventually.
Yeah. It's hard. It is hard to slow down and think, okay, well, how am I supposed to get a result that I want from doing less? Like, that doesn't, theoretically speaking, that doesn't make sense for many women. And
I think sometimes it still doesn't. And sometimes they're still like, when you say to me, and I'm just like, no, not this week. I don't need to chill this week. I've got one more week of pushing before I can chill. And I will still question it, but it's a mind shift over like time. You need to give yourself that time.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I come up against when I work with women, that honestly, I slow people down more than I would tell them to do more. And I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of women, because it's like, okay, I've come to a coach to see this result and I want to improve these things, and she's telling me to do less. Like, how is that going to get me the result? And I think it takes a small element of trust. You know, I think a big part for me is explaining the journey and you understanding the why behind it.
Yeah.
But it's a big part of trust to be like, okay, I'm going to trust this person that's telling me to just stop doing all of what I'm doing.
You do have to really trust in your coach. Like, definitely, you really have to do that. And obviously now, because people document their own daily foods they eat, or what they're doing in the gym, and like, you just think, well, that person's doing that and they've got a coach, so I should do that because I've got a coach. And it just does not work like that. Yeah,
I think that's where, like, again, the whole picture comes into it, taking you for you. And I said this before, like, you are not your diagnosis. You are not somebody like with endo and with PCOS. And touching on the side of that, when obviously originally we got the diagnosis of PCOS and followed by endo, which has been definitely a big journey for you. But through managing the side of PCOS, we've pretty much been able to reverse it.
It's not in my bloods anymore.
It's not there, which is crazy. And that's not the situation for every woman. But I think, as I said, like what you have put into this journey and just taking on board everything and following through with it, like we've went from being, I think the insulin resistance was
so high. It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
and then obviously my fasted insulin this time on my bloods was
incredible. We got bloods done.
Whoa.
Was it this week? It was
this week.
No levels of insulin resistance, which is crazy. And as I said, we kind of understood where Kaylie's was driven from a little bit more, and through addressing these things, we can honestly reverse a lot of symptoms of PCOS. And it still takes work. It's not a case that it's like, okay, well, it's gone, and like body can have these tendencies towards it. So it does take constant work. It's not
management.
Yeah, it's management for sure. But that was a huge win for us. And I have the other side of it, the endometriosis, that we're still managing day to day. But you know, it has all been a process of understanding and working on different things. We've been looking at things like your gut health recently. We've been trying to address a little bit of that, the stress and nervous system side of it, which I think has been a huge component for you.
For me now, that's the biggest bit, to kind of regulate my nervous system and de-stress. A lot of journaling, meditation, box breathing.
All of those things.
I'm in my me era.
Yeah, exactly. Addressing the things that you think like you know, that don't matter.
Well, if you look at me when I started, when I was like so like I have to do everything, to now I'm like, no, I'm gonna sit and do some journaling. Like, I wouldn't have even predicted that would be
it's not the same person. Obviously our journey took a little bit of a step further, and Kaylie decided that she wanted to step on stage as a bikini competitor, which she did last year, wasn't it? Last June, which was incredible. And for Kaylie, she just really loved the process of training, of you know the whole process as such.
For me it was like the discipline of the training. I just really loved that, and I thought, you know, that was a goal for me, to kind of be like, how can I get my training to the next level? And it was such a huge confidence thing to be able to step on stage and really just like showcase the hard work that I'd done.
And of course we had to take that like element of her health into consideration, and through the whole process, you know, make sure
I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have a coach that was like health first. For me, we've done so much on my health the past 3 years to just put that in the bin just for the sake
To
of
get on
competing
stage.
and that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So like I don't think if I didn't have you in my corner looking at that and at every point being like, no, we need to do this, we need to, you know, health first, I wouldn't have felt comfortable to do it.
Yeah, really smashing. I'm going to put some photos on the screen of her on stage, and you did a photo shoot which is incredible as well, and it was just amazing to see that whole journey. I'm going to ask you a few not deep questions, but what would you say to women who have been told everything is fine and they don't necessarily feel fine? They know that there's something, because I feel as women we know our bodies. When something doesn't feel right, we know. And what would you say to those women?
It's a good question. Trust in your gut, and don't take a no, don't take a blocker. Like if you really genuinely, and you'll know deep down if there's something that's not quite right or you feel off, that is probably true.
Yeah.
And to
sometimes it's just not looked deep enough into, you know.
You've got to fight for yourself.
Yeah, you do, and you have through this whole journey. You absolutely have. And for the women that are, you know, just kind of find that they give up on themselves, you know, I think especially when we look at things like PCOS and endo and the day-to-day element that is hard, what would you say to those women that kind of find themselves giving up on themselves?
You're not alone. There are people out there that are your people. And if you can, obviously get a coach if you're in that space and you want to kind of develop your own kind of fitness or nutrition or whatever. That coaches will be your best like resource, and you've got to just trust in the journey and the process. But yeah, I'd say overall you're definitely just not alone, and there are other people doing it, and it's not just you that the world hates, and that's always going to be the way for you.
You get people around you that support you.
The fatigue, like being that tired is normal. Like it's not normal.
You just had a long day.
Things are not normal, and like it's okay to question things as well.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Don't just always take no for an answer. You don't have to do that. You can push, and you can keep pushing, and you can get that support and truly like be able to support your body for you. The question would be, is there anything that you believed about your body before that you no longer believe?
Didn't get any heads up to these questions.
No, this is a different one. I just said sit down, let's chat.
Is there anything I believed in my
about your body before that you no longer believe?
I guess for me it probably would be that you don't have to push so hard to get the results that you want. Like I pushed so hard before, and now I probably do the least.
Yeah.
As weird as that sounds, like, it's like,
and we're just saying, like, compared to where she started out many years ago, when she was doing all these crazy things with HIIT and these classes and eating very little and fainting in marathons, and because she was just pushing herself and doing crazy diets.
I've done it
she
all,
was
guys.
doing less in
so
a bodybuilding.
You name it.
Yeah, you were doing
all.
literally less in a bodybuilding prep than you were starting out.
Yeah.
So I think it's that belief that it's like you're not someone who just has to diet harder. You're not just somebody who doesn't respond well. I suppose maybe you have a little bit more trust in your body now.
I have way less guilt, as weird as that sounds. Like I've gotten myself into such a state of like, you know, binging and restriction, and then just being like, because it was so restrictive and my output was so high, and I just thought if the more I did, the less I eat, and then obviously I would then get to a point where my body was just in a state. And not feeling that guilt is,
you don't have any.
It's freedom. I can't even describe it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to answer my questions. But thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you guys found that useful and somewhat could relate as well to Kaylie's journey. As always, make sure you are subscribed, and I will catch you guys in the next one.